Thank you very much, Fáilte Galéir Arash. I have to say, some breaking news. The OPW have just told me that there has never been as many creamy croissants consumed by a single group in the history of Kilkenny Castle, so well done. Your cholesterol won't thank you, but it's a new benchmark and one to hold yourselves to later on in the day. Right, we are moving on with our next presentation. We start in Donegal and we're moving now through Dublin, Clare and on to Cork County Council with a really clever initiative that linked into Crinú na Nóg. Would you please welcome Emer O'Brien, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning, everyone. Delighted to be here representing Cork County Council. My name is Emer O'Brien. I'm the County Librarian responsible for Library Service, the Arts Service and the Creative Ireland Coordinator for Cork County. So I'm talking today about our initiative, Make a Creative Wish. So just to kind of give some context to this programme in terms of I suppose, where it fits in nationally and locally for us as well. The Creative Ireland programme is a government initiative aimed at improving access to engagement with Ireland's culture and creativity. The programme's vision for 2023 and 2027 was to integrate creativity into daily life and to help individuals, communities and the nation reach their full creative potential and thus promoting well-being. In the Library and Arts Service in Cork County, this is something that we feel is very important for us when we're developing our services and our programmes, because we truly believe that creativity, particularly in a digital age, is so important for our young people to start developing that critical thinking, creative thinking, and being able to kind of, I suppose, find tools to help express themselves and to question the world around them. Under the Creative Ireland strategy, there's 5 key areas: creative youth, communities, industries, health and well-being, and climate action and sustainability. So this particular programme, My Creative Wish, actually falls into a lot of those areas, but obviously particularly creative youth. In Cork County, the corporate plan up until 2024, it has a number of themes that really support this direction that we have with this programme. So the strategic theme of our people, our strong inclusive communities and our service quality, we really kind of leaned into when we were looking at the approach to the Crinú na Nóg over the last few years. As you can see there, it points at participation and engagement and diversity and quality, social, physical, mental health, and the potential of our communities through creativity, and the importance that is something that everybody can link into, no matter where they're living within the county or what their circumstances are. And then in the Cork County Development Plan, again, you can see that strategically there's a very strong emphasis on recreation and amenity and the importance of that within developing a quality of life for communities that we serve. And there as well, also the arts service is particularly mentioned in terms of providing an important social benefit. I suppose, again, it is hard to quantify, and it's actually stated here, but it's the linking in with the communities, whether it's through the schools, older people, communities or marginalised groups. The arts service has a flexibility and a dynamic approach that can really link in with communities no matter what it is that they're trying to achieve. And I suppose finally, just in terms of context, is our own library development plan. So we work very closely with the Arts Office to deliver programming, and we kind of always look at our services together so that we can enhance both the library service and the arts service. So as you can see there, we've mentioned inclusion and outreach as something that's very important to us. So connecting with people where they are, and in this case, children in the school setting, and celebrating and nurturing diversity, languages, multiple cultures across the county. And we made a specific mention as well to children and young people. So we have a children and young people service department within our library service. And we helped the Arts Office, I suppose, to meet the kind of logistical needs of the Make-A-Wish campaign. So even though the Arts Service isn't measured in Noac, at the moment the library service is. So just to give you a little bit of context there of kind of, I suppose, the impact that this particular initiative, my Creative Wish, had on our figures there in the library service in 2024. So there was the 18 events that had a presence in 15 of our 25 libraries, and there were over 1,377 participants. So just to go into a little bit of detail about what my Creative Wish exactly was. So up until this point, when we decided to go with the Creative Wish programme, we would have received our Crenona Noac funding, and the very experienced arts team would have put together a programme, and then that would have been delivered and promoted out through the library service and the schools, and people would have attended. I have to give great credit to the community engagement officer for Creative Ireland and Cork County. She really felt that the engagement, she wasn't happy with the level of engagement. Even though the feedback was positive, she felt that more could be done. So she came up basically with the idea that we really needed to engage much more directly with the children themselves. So what this is really about is being a completely child-led and a child-focused programme, focusing very much on asking them directly what do they want from a creative point of view, and then trying to find a way of delivering that to them. So we did it it was a pilot initially, and then we rolled it out completely last year. And it was quite a leap of faith, because you have a lot of control when you're programming something yourself and you roll it out and you have your partners. But to take that step back and go back to the participants and really put it out there to them, not knowing exactly what they were going to come back with, what level of engagement there might be, took quite a bit of bravery, but it was well worth it, as you can see. So just in terms of the process. So we created I suppose a branding for the programme, and we pushed it out through our contacts in schools and in local youth reach centres and all our other partners within our communities, and basically kind of explained to the leaders what the programme was about and how we wanted to engage truly with the children and what they were looking for. And then we had a pack for the children themselves, which was kind of designed in a very child-friendly way, so that they weren't filling in a kind of a bland form. It was very colourful. It was very kind of age-appropriate, and allowed them, even if they didn't want to explain what it was they wanted to do, they could just draw a picture of it or something like that. Whatever way they felt they could express what their wish was. So in total, we got 700 submissions, which we received from 36 schools, which, as you can imagine, reflected quite a wide variety. So from these, then the team assessed them, and there were 17 winning submissions were selected to participate in the programme, which was a series of 6 weeks workshops, which were delivered in a mixture of libraries and schools across the county. And then in addition to that, 13 runners-up were awarded 4 tickets each to attend taster workshops hosted in their local libraries in the area that they had mentioned. I suppose what was interesting about this was working together with the Arts Office and the Culture team. We were able to look at the submissions and really add value to services we already had. a lot of the interest in it was in around music, and in Cork County Library Service we have a musical instrument lending service. So we were able to kind of, add a lot of value into that. We also have a lot of children's book clubs and writers groups, so a lot of it was around that area. So we really tried to kind of bring all the resources together once we had the submissions in. So essentially, this child-led nature of the programme contributed to 450% increase in participation compared to the previous year. This is very important to us because Creanoon and Noac is funded on a county basis, not per population. So we have to find as many innovative ways as possible to make sure that the money is being spent for as many people as possible and stretching as far as we can. So we're really, really happy with that. I suppose moreover as well, the model really did lead to a much more meaningful engagement because we really felt it did reflect directly the interests and the creative passions of the participants. And I was there the day that we brought the 17 winning participants into County Hall in Cork, and we had their matched facilitators with them, and they got to spend the morning with them, whether it was a writer or a musician or a playwright or a dress designer or whatever it was. So they got to spend their time with them. And I think what was really important here was that then their school got their 6-week workshop. So, sometimes the school team goes off and they win a match and they come home with a medal and everyone's celebrating. So this was a way of celebrating creativity in children, so that the creative, I suppose, ambitions of one particular child were then celebrated by the whole class and the whole school as well. And I think we do believe, looking at media, that the public awareness generally of the Creanoon and Noac programme locally saw a notable increase. So just very briefly there, these are some of the activities that the children came up with. So a huge variety, as you see, from animation to drama, design, filmmaking and songwriting. So we were delighted to see the range. And some of them are quite traditional, like, crochet and drawing, but then there's the newer ones like animation and circus and visual arts as well. Access and inclusion was very important for us because we wanted to make sure that all children were able to be involved in this programme. So we worked very closely with, as I said, our partners on that. And just to mention as well that out of this, we made a separate submission for extra funding just to run an accessible disco, because that was we got a lot of submissions from children with mobility and accessibility issues who weren't able to engage in a lot of activities. And one of the things they said was they just wanted to go to a disco. So we got extra money for that, and we ran a disco at that, and that was great fun. And just to show there, obviously we adhere to all the various child protection and safeguarding rules, and you can see the Creative Wish packs there, so they're very child friendly. And I suppose, look, just finally, in wrap up, ultimately we believe that a child-led approach, as in with any customer service, the customer is key, and the customer approach has definitely, it is a lot more work, but it's also a lot more engaging, and I think the outcomes are a lot more impactful. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Emer. Thank you, Emer. I love coming to events like this because it reminds me of the breadth of responsibility that local authorities actually have. And if you were to set out, when you're establishing the stage yet again, going, we're going to give them things like planning and roads, tree responsibilities, and then we'll give them libraries, and we'll give them arts, and we'll give them culture and tourism as well. And for no reason other than the fact that people working in those buildings actually care enough, it all works because ultimately you're serving your communities. That's really good, and it's fantastic to see that, the hard stuff and the soft stuff can coalesce within one organisation for the betterment of everybody. Okay, up next, you love this one. Local authorities love to hear about how they can make sure that they get every single cent that they're owed out of people. I jest, of course, but the good people in Kildare have used technology to a very, very useful degree when it comes to identifying rates and who owes them what. The GeoCollect application, we'll hear in a minute from Martin Donnelly, but first of all, Catherine Ryan, ladies and gentlemen, from Kildare.
Thanks, everyone. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about GeoCollect. So this is a system that we've developed in Kildare to help maximise income from commercial rates. And I suppose as a local authority, we're no different to everyone else here. Income from rates, extremely important source of funding for us with which to deliver services. We have a rate book of about 75 million, which is about 30% of our revenue budget. So very important that we try and maximise this area of income as much as we can, and certainly GeoCollect is the system that enables us to do that. Okay, so what you have on the screen there, these are all the systems that feed into making GeoCollect what it is. Okay, and really the reason why this system is so efficient and so effective is down to the depth and the quality and the accuracy of the data that feeds into it. Okay, and as a system, GeoCollect has three distinct functions, which I will get to, but I suppose the headline act of what it does is it gives you 100% capture on commercial activity in your area. Okay, now what does that mean? GeoCollect will identify any building that is not rated, but from which commercial activity is taking place. Okay, now that could be a residential property, could be a commercial property, but if you're running a business from a property and you're not getting a rates bill, GeoCollect will tell us who you are so that we can rectify it and send you a bill. Okay, and linked to that, for properties that are already rated, if the business that you have on your books, if they leave and someone else moves in, GeoCollect will tell us that as well. So if you combine those two things together, you get a full picture of what's happening in terms of commercial activity. You can send for rating everything that should go for rating, and at the end of the day, you can pretty much guarantee that everybody who should be getting a rates bill gets a rates bill. Okay, just to give you an idea of how and why we came to develop this. So like most local authorities, we very much rely on our revenue collectors. You know, they are our boots on the ground to be looking for changes in occupation, new buildings, extensions, etc. And they're supported in that work by a series of alerts that they get from iPlan for commencement notices, planning permissions, etc. And particularly in the main towns, that works really well. Like the lads would know every shop in every street. But once you come outside the main towns, it's not as easy. So Kildare is a pretty big county. You have a lot of roads to get down to carry out what are essentially ad hoc inspections looking for new commercial activity. Okay? Plus you can only see what you can see from the road. And that's a problem because if you can't see it, you can't send for rating. So you can never be fully sure that you're capturing everything that you're supposed to capture. We also then have the added challenge that, like a lot of local authorities, our revenue collector function is not being renewed. So as the lads retire, their posts either aren't replaced or they're replaced by office-based members of staff. So for example, you know, when I started in Kildare maybe 8 years ago, we had 13 revenue collectors. We now have 5. 5 or 6 years from now, we may not have any. So there certainly is a challenge there to see, can we in some ways try and replicate that boots on the ground element, but to see can we do it from a desktop. And thankfully we were able to come up with that solution. We call it GeoCollect and it's delivered through GIS. Okay, so GIS has been spoken about a good bit today, so I'm guessing you're kind of familiar with it. You have a mapping system with a series of like salami slices of data that you can add or take away as you wish, and you can see that with the tick boxes on the right there. And the idea of using GIS for something to do with rates was presented to us by our IT department. We weren't entirely sure what we were going to do with it, if we're honest, but the one thing we did know is that if we're going to do something with this, it has to give us more than what we were getting with the Talcha map. You know, so you'll all know the Talcha map. You have thousands of blue dots on a map indicating already rated properties. You hover your mouse over the top of the dot and you get the valuation report for that building. So if we're going to use GIS for rates, we have to get something more than that. Okay, so I had spoke to my colleague Fiona Brown, and I said, what is your, what are you looking for here? What's your dream scenario for this system? And her answer to me was really simple. She said, I want to open the map, I want to hover my mouse over the top of a building, I want a box to appear on the screen that gives me all of the information that I need to see. So all of the different reference numbers, both ours and Tolch's, customer name, address, balance, valuation report. I want everything in one place on one screen. And that was the ask that we gave Martin Donnelly, our GIS officer, who's here with us today. And not only did he give us back exactly what we asked for, he gave us lots more in addition. So what he created really is GeoCollect. So it's a system that has 3 distinct functions, okay? And I'll go through those with you now. So the first function we have is this data visualization tool. So this is our one-stop shop for rates. Everything you need in one place. And this in itself is hugely useful. For any of you, if you've worked in rates, you spend your time going between multiple databases to build up a picture of customer accounts. So you'll go from Ascendis to Aggresso to Tolcha and back again. This does away with the need for that. You have everything in one place. And what Martin did here was really clever. So if you look at the tick boxes there, he's created a number of slices of data for us. So the first slice he created is that rates slice, as I call it, with all our customer data. The second thing he did was he copied across the Tolcha map. So if I want to look at Tolcha's stuff in its entirety, I don't need to go to their website. I could just access it here. And then the third kind of slice of data that we had that we do use quite a bit is our planning permission information. So in themselves, 3 really useful reference points. Okay, and then the second function that we have here is a really useful data analysis tool. So if I want to look at rates collection in a particular business park or street or town or ED or whatever your parameter is, all I need to do is go into the map, throw a digital rope around that area, all the information will pop to the bottom of the screen, and that's easily exportable into Excel. Now, I use this on a weekly basis. It's a very, very useful tool in itself. Okay, and then we come to the third function. This is like the headliner of this system. So if I take you back for a sec to those slices that I talked about, we have our rates slice, our Tolcha slice, and our planning permission slice. The big win with this system came when we became aware of a slice of data that we didn't know anything about, which is the geodirectory. So this is the kind of national database of buildings in Ireland, which is maintained by An Post, and it's kept up to date really frequently. It's updated every 3 months, which is very important for us. And every building has a name, has an address, and crucially, they all have an air code as well. So we figured out, once we became aware of this, that if we take the Tolcha list of already rated properties and we do a comparative analysis with the geodirectory list, which contains within it every active business in Kildare. So we do a comparative analysis between the 2 lists with the air code as the common denominator. So if we literally play snap, match off the rated property to the active business. Anything that sticks out is almost certainly a building that is not rated, but from which commercial activity is taking place. Okay. Now, from your finance director's perspective, that is your missing money list. Okay. That is income that you're not getting because the place isn't rated and the person's not getting a bill. Okay. And what GeoCollect does for us is it pretty much guarantees that if that situation were to arise, in other words, somebody starts trading from a non-rated building, it cannot persist because we now get an anomaly report every quarter and we would pick that up really quickly. We'd send it off for rating and then the person will get a bill. And the fact that we now get this quarterly report, it does 2 main things for us. The first thing that it does is, if I take you back to those kind of ad hoc inspections that our revenue collectors were having to do, they don't really need to do those anymore because we're going to get it through our anomaly list when it comes in. So we can be a bit more efficient in terms of their time. They can concentrate more effort into collecting money, dealing with customers, carrying out inspections, and then when their anomaly list comes in, when they get that list, they're not going on a wild goose chase. They're getting the name of a business, the address of a business, and an air code. So they can fly through that list really quickly, get it sent off for rating, and then we know that the bills will follow after that. And the second thing that having these reports gives us is it absolutely future-proofs us for the point in time where we don't have those revenue collectors, as we move towards a not entirely office-based system, because we will always have to do inspections of some description, and we always want to keep that kind of local connection, but certainly a more office-based system. Okay, so hopefully you have an idea of why we developed it, what it is, what it does, how it works. Now I want to give you an idea of what we found. So after Martin had developed this, we did a top-to-toe analysis of the county. And the first time we did this, we actually had to do it manually. So we literally took an Excel sheet with all the Telcha data, an Excel sheet with all the geodirectory data, and did a VLOOKUP between the two of them. And there is a bit of time in that. Since that time, Martin has figured out now how to automate that process. So there's actually no work involved from the rates admin side, from my perspective. We simply wait for our anomaly list to pop into my email. So it's really efficient use of time. So we did our top-to-toe analysis. We sent off for rating everything that should go for rating. And once all of that all those referrals filters through Telcha in maybe a year's time, we're looking at an increase in our rate book in terms of the number of properties of around 12%, okay, which is around 600 properties, so highly significant figures. Very hard to give you an accurate estimate of what that corresponds to in terms of money, because each of these 600 properties, they're all different in terms of size and scale, but certainly you're into millions. And it is worth saying, of the type of property that we found, there absolutely were some buildings that we really should have picked up and didn't, but they're very much in the minority. The majority of the properties that we found unrated, but with businesses in them, they were either located in places that you couldn't see them from the road, or located in places where we weren't looking for them. In other words, residential areas. And a particular example here would be things like creches. We've picked them all up over the last 3 or 4 years with the alerts we get for commencement notices. But there certainly were some before that located in, particularly away out in rural areas with no businesses near them, that we just wouldn't see them. And certainly they've all been captured now. Okay, so that's the system. I'm not going to say anything more about it there. Just before I close off, I do want to give you an idea of the cost of doing this, if it's something that you're interested in. So as a local authority, we were able to develop this within existing resources, which is to say the cost of this was Martin's time to develop it, my staff's time to kind of bed it in, but importantly, all of the systems that are needed to make this work, we were already paying for them. So, so really we're making more efficient use of the systems that we already have, and there certainly, there were no purchase orders raised to do this. And this project formed part of our Lean Six Sigma program in 2023. And very like the lady who spoke from Donegal, you should see the same kind of themes here. You look at your processes, you get rid of the waste, you keep the good stuff, and then you should find yourself in a cycle of continual improvement. Okay, I'm going to wrap up there. We do just want to say thanks very much to Noac and the CCMA for letting us kind of showcase this. It didn't take us very long to realise this was going to completely change how we deliver rates administration, and all of it for the better. So look, we're more than happy to spread it around if anyone's interested in it. We did do a bit of work with Fingal before Christmas to do just that, and we're going to give them our background scripts so that they don't have to duplicate work. More than happy to do that for anyone who's interested. My details are there, or come and chat to myself, or more importantly, Martin, after we finish. And look, we'll certainly set something up for you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Catherine. I can tell you there was some level of interest in the room for that presentation. Can't imagine why. If you ever shared that with the TV licensed people, I swear to God, I'll hunt you down. Just keep it to yourselves and local authorities. Don't bother sharing it out. Right. From something that definitely all got you interested, the next one is something that I'm definitely interested in, because it might not come as a surprise to you that I am a massive election nerd, and that my idea of, like, you know, going to Disneyland is sitting in a count centre, watching things progress, as long as I'm not directly involved, right? And I know probably most of the people in this room sit on the other side doing the actual boring counting part. I'm on the fun side, looking at it happen. But it is very important that it is seen to be done, and that democracy actually has a purpose right down to local level, to the councillors that are elected. And Meath County Council live streamed local elections this year, and I have to say it's a really, really clever initiative. To talk us through it, will you please welcome to the stage Ailish Shaw, ladies and gentlemen. Ailish. Thank you.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm Ailish. I'm the Communications Manager for Meath County Council, and I'm delighted to be here with you today to not only talk about comms but also innovation in communications. I suppose my main role is always about engaging and informing, and sometimes that's something we find quite difficult in local authorities. We do amazing work, but for some reason we don't want to tell anybody about it. So I'm delighted to be able to share this with you. We were obviously fully transparent and accountable in this, so we had nowhere to hide. So it's great to kind of give you an insight into that. Okay, so let me give you kind of a breakdown of Meath. So we had 40 seats to be filled across 6 municipal districts with over 90 candidates. So our count centre in Simonstown would become a hub of activity. As a local authority and as a communications manager, my team faced a number of challenges, 3 to be specific. So the first challenge was ensuring that every citizen in the county would have access to real-time information, regardless of whether they were physically present in the room. We needed to find a solution to reach over 220,000 Meath citizens. With the prevalence of social media, which we embrace, and the ability to deliver news instantly, Meath County Council's second challenge was to provide news promptly and be the primary source of information for updates online. So we had to compete against the candidates, the journalists, and everybody in that count centre throughout the counts. The final challenge was to educate citizens about the workings of a local election. While the candidates, election staff and local press could fully experience the count centre and witness the work of the council and the democratic process firsthand, the opportunity was only available to those within the room. So we needed to find a way to bring this experience to our citizens. So it was proposed to live stream the event. So why live stream? By live streaming, Meath County Council will give people not physically at the event the ability to watch in real time or to play back later. By live streaming the event on a virtual platform, we could leverage features that enable people to promote the event on social media and chat with other attendees, increasing engagement rates and sharing the process with others who wouldn't normally participate with Meath County Council online. The online audience will receive information simultaneously with those attending in person, making Meath County Council the main source of information. And after the event, the video can be used as an educational resource. The URL can be shared with educational institutions throughout the county, and the county council could use the video for future election preparations. So, what did we need? We needed a camera, a microphone, a laptop with an internet connection, and good lighting to live stream from the in-person event to the virtual event platform. In addition, we needed live streaming software to connect the video we would create to the internet, and users on the other end could access the live stream through a video link shared across our social media platforms in the lead up to the event. Users could click the link during the live stream and start from the very beginning of the day, or they could come in at the point that they have entered on the link. And once the event was over, the live stream software turned the stream into a video that we could edit if needed or to leave as is. So this would become a valuable piece of content going forward. So from June 9th to June 11th, Meath County Council live streamed from Simonstown Town Centre via its YouTube channel. The stream was also shared on all our digital platforms, so Facebook, X, LinkedIn and Instagram. And the local newspaper embedded the link on their landing page. So people who were accessing through the Meath Chronicle could click the link and straight away they were on Meath County Council's website, giving us the click-through rates and also watching the live action. So notably, there was no additional cost associated with the live stream. So the equipment to broadcast announcements to the screens in the centre throughout the count were already in place. There was a stage, microphone, camera, there was a strong internet connection. So the only additional requirement was the live streaming platform, which we had used previously during COVID and was readily available. So the benefits. Meath County Council created an accessible environment for all. The live stream offered event attendance to people who may not have had the time, money or resources to travel, or maybe had a disability that would otherwise prevent them from attending in person. Allowed anyone to attend no matter what their location was. Live streaming allowed Meath County Council to create a more sustainable event, reducing its carbon footprint. For instance, the local radio station LMFM covers both Louth and Meath, so their journalists based themselves in the Louth Town Centre because they could access the real-time information for Meath online. So because of the live stream, we now have content that we can use repeatedly and push out to our audience later. We can reach people who weren't physically present at a later time. And then the live streaming also just gave citizens a unique insight into the election process, so fostered a real sense of community and increased engagement and interaction. So when the register of electors go out again in 2029, God forbid, to promote the campaign and get into it again, we now have videos that can be used to educate and share the process and promote it. The video will also be used in online promotional campaigns. So obviously in the month leading up, we will get packs for Check the Register, and we can now use this video to prompt that maybe under 18 demographic to get involved and to register to vote. So while the live stream was in place, the communications team was also publishing the results and the graphics on all our digital platforms. So these same graphics were shared with the audience online. So that was going, as these graphics were going out in the room, they were also being shared with that online audience. So that would have been the view from the YouTube channel when they clicked through. So the stream amassed at the time, there's some examples. So that would be our social media content we would have done. So each morning it obviously ran from Saturday until Tuesday, if I remember correctly. And so each morning we would upload, and it was the same link every time. So if somebody had on it saved, or they could just click into it again. So it was actually quite easy to do. And we had that material ready to go. So there was no stress in the count centre. If it went to a third or fourth day, we had that material ready to go. So in total, at the time, the stream amassed over 22,800 views with a peak of 166 concurrent viewers and over 9,200 impressions. Despite the majority of viewers being based in Ireland, there was global interest, so with individuals from the United Kingdom, Spain, and the United States also tuning in. And last night I actually went on just to get an idea of how many people have watched it since, and that has gone over 28,000 views as of yesterday evening. So people are still interested in watching it, or maybe it was all a ye, I don't know, but the good thing is it is growing, and that's what's important. So I just wanted to share some feedback. So Gavin Beckton is the editor of our local newspaper in the Meath Chronicle, and he sent this to us, which is kind of speaks volumes. And then I just included some examples of some Facebook and social media comments we received as well. So like, people are interested and they do want to know what's happening. And I know Navan MD went to a third day. God, I'm trying to remember now what it did. And people are like, what are you doing to us? Like, this is, so it's just seeing that. And I come in from the private sector. I never experienced a local election before. So this was all very new to me. But like the whole point of that was I was coming from that public side of things. So what we're doing all the time isn't obvious to everybody outside of the local authority. So it's about embracing that and not being afraid to just share it. So if I have a key takeaway from today, it's about embracing digital transformation. So it did take strategic thinking and vision, but because Meath County Council was willing to embrace digital transformation, it exemplified its commitment to change and to adapt, ultimately adding value to its citizens. And I think that's my job as a communications manager, and it's a job of communications. We need to be willing to open and inform and engage with the public. And we've nothing to hide. We are brilliant, so why not tell people about it? So one more thing I want to share with you. We also did a time-lapse video over the weeks of preparing, so the post, pre, and whatever. So it's actually great to see, and this is something, again, we're going to use going out to schools to show them the work and the effort put in to the local election process. So thank you very much.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Ailish, thank you very much indeed. We're going to let you get a microphone on you there. Obviously, this is something that I'm kind of passionate about in the same way that you're passionate about rates. One of the key things to take away from this is all of the local authorities that we have here. We've got 30-odd local authorities in the country. The responsibility will fall to you more and more as media contracts, right? And we all don't really talk about this, but local media is contracting a lot faster than national media. And the example I always give is when I started working in radio, and I joined a radio station in Dublin called FM 104, there was a staff of 30. Now, there was a staff of 30 working in that newsroom. Today, there's a staff of 2. Okay, so that means that that local content, and that's a Dublin radio station, that local content has been reduced, and it's becoming harder and harder for local media to provide it. So the transparency that you need to have trust and faith in your organisations is probably going to fall back to you guys an awful lot more. And it's a brilliant example, Ailish, of how it should be done. Because even if there's only 3 men and a dog watching, you've nothing to hide. It's all out there. It's all there, and people can tune in and tune in. You can't expect them to go and vote on a Friday and all of a sudden not care about it on the Saturday when the votes are being cast. So it's a really good initiative, which is why I wanted to single it out. So let's bring up our panel here. So we'll ask Ailish to rejoin us, Catherine Ryan and Martin Donnelly from Kildare, Emer O'Brien from Cork County Council, and Lar Power, who's the CE of Kilkenny, is going to come up and join us here as well. So up you come, guys. We'll let you take a seat. Round of applause for our panel. And don't forget, we have got Slido as well, and some questions are coming in already, so do keep those questions coming through to me here, and I will be the ones asking them on the stage. So we'll get you set up. Larry, you have a microphone there, do you? Not yet. No panic. The good Lord will provide there in a minute. Are we missing a chair? We are missing a chair, are we? No, we're all right. We're okay. You can't expect a fella with a sore toe, lads. Come on. We've talked about the sore toe at length. Lar, I've got to begin with you. Again, thanks for the lend of the hall here in Kilkenny to bring everybody together. It's a wonderful location. I mean, as a CE, you're always asking your team to innovate, to drive forward. And there is great examples of innovation, isn't there?
I know, it's exceptional. I suppose if you look at, the local authority sector in Ireland, you consider the number of people involved, you're talking about in excess of 30,000 people. And there's great ability within those teams of people to do very innovative things. And I think this morning demonstrated that with 6 very interesting projects. But that's happening through all 31 authorities throughout the country.
The words to any CE's ear that are music are, no purchase order had to be raised, right? And we've heard that a number of times today. So that just means you're using the resources that you have efficiently, but also that they feel empowered to do this. And that empowerment piece is really important, isn't it?
Hugely, hugely important, you know, but like the idea of utilising the systems that are out there to assist in things you have to do, to get a 12% increase in the number of value petitions, very impressive, obviously as well. But look, all jokes aside, our job is obviously, you know, placemaking, making it a better place for people to live, work, invest and visit. And all of these demonstrations this morning are about bringing improvement to those people who live, work, invest and live in your area.
Yeah, I mean, and we've three really good examples of community here, different in each way, right? I'm going to begin, Emer, with you. The Crinan and Noac programme, you know, it's the classic example of something that, you know, could easily not do it. You know, arts could decide to go off in a different direction. We've invested in Macroom, in the theatre there, and we won't do anything else for the year. But that would be kind of abdicating the responsibility that the local authority has. So the motivation I'm keen to tap into here for this particular project seems to be coming from the best place.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the motivation here is very much, this is obviously a children's programme, and I think the motivation is very genuine, led by the strategies that I mentioned. It's very much about focusing on that engagement piece and being led by the child. And just, I think, really believing a number of years into the Creative Ireland programme now, just how important creativity is. And it not just as a soft skill now, but I think even more so as a hard skill, because it really is the way forward in terms of how we'll even kind of help our children to understand how to utilise AI, jobs they might go into in the future. They have to be creative. They're going to have to be very creative. And well, I think that's what we're trying to do.
They're the voters of the future. They're the people who are going to be in your job and in other jobs as well. Getting them to realise that the local authority is actually working on their behalf. I mean, I never went to a council-sponsored disco when I was a young fella. I'm sure I would have taken the opportunity if it came along. But that idea of realising that the council is there and I can be part of it, I mean, that's vital, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why a programme like this was a fantastic opportunity for us in Cork County Council to be able to really engage and be really able to promote that piece around creating quality of life for people in Cork County, and that the role that the County Council has to play in that.
Martin, I'm going to bring you in because we haven't heard from you yet. You obviously put a huge amount of effort into putting that programme together. When you looked at that, I mean, what was the genesis of this? Was it just simply a conversation between the two of you, or between people in the office going, yeah, there's bound to be a better way we can do it?
Yeah, well, it was a collaboration between the rates team and ourselves and IT. And really, when we sat down, it was an exercise in gap analysis, fundamentally, because it was, well, you know, what are we collecting? What can we see? And what can we not see? And how can we get to the place where we're going to see what we need to see?
IT is often viewed in any organisation about making the computer in front of your work, right? Yeah. And that includes the back end and the cloud and everything that goes with it. But IT is a solution, and people sometimes overlook that, don't they?
It is. IT is the solution, and particularly GIS is seen maybe viewed as a map where something's demonstrated in a pretty picture, if you like. But if the data behind GIS is correct, up-to-date, dynamic, huge decisions, and as I said, gap analysis decisions can be brought forward from there.
I mean, the funny thing, Catherine, is you talked in your presentation about the number of physical inspectors having to go out. And you know, it's not an easy job, because you're going to have to go in and there might always be a little bit of confrontation and you might have to get information, and it's one of those things that, you know, it's a tricky job. But then you start saying we might need them in a few years' time. Now, a previous iteration of local authorities would have absolutely freaked out over that. But I'm presuming you're not getting rid of these people. We're reallocating them, we're putting them into a different capacity, a different use, and maximising the return for both them and the local authority.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I would say two things, you know.
Oh, we might just pull that little Britney Spears microphone closer into your mouth if you can. There you go. Right, lovely.
I would say two things. You know, maybe 25 years ago, our revenue collectors were collecting rent and rates door to door, and the majority of what they were collecting was cash. and the world doesn't work like that anymore.
No.
You know, so our 5 revenue collectors collect almost nothing in cash. It's bank transfers, it's direct debits, it's payment apps, etc. So the thing that GIS does for us is it makes us a lot more clever and strategic in terms of the inspections we do. But because we know that we're not going to have those boots on the ground in a very short space of time, we can actually, for the majority of those referrals that we've done to Tolcha, almost, I'd say 80% of them don't even require inspection, because what the stuff that Martin does is it creates such a wraparound view of what we're looking at. So so whenever we refer somebody to Tolcha, we have to give them a picture of what's there. So I can give them such a thorough picture of what's there, from photographs and satellite imaging and websites and Facebook pages, that
Things you couldn't have done 20 years ago.
You just couldn't. You needed that person literally standing outside the building. Whereas, you know, we've just made such progress since then. So that's why what Martin did was way more than what we thought he would. But it's that future-proofing element for us that we know. Number one, we're not getting a drop in service, but number two, we're leaving enough room in what we're doing, that, because from a community perspective, you know, the clue's in the name, we are a local authority and we want to keep that community connection, and we think we'll have the right balance between technology and people going forward.
Yeah, I suppose the other thing about Martin is no system is completely infallible. So I mean, you have to allow for that as well, and presume the system does allow for appeal. You know, and you know, sometimes things can go wrong, or people can change at the last minute, or there might be an error somewhere along the way.
Yes, that indeed is true. But we primarily base our research on the national database, being the geodirectory, and the air codes. And
air codes are accurate, to be fair.
Air codes are accurate, and what we kind of tend to do is we look for updates in the geodirectory, and we do an incremental comparative from quarter to quarter, so we can see the changes in the official national address database, and outside of that we don't really move. So that's really the fundamentals.
It's just a really clever use of existing technologies. It's pulling it together. It's really, really good. Using new technologies, Ailish, is something that you did as well. Had you ever gone to an election count, just out of curiosity? I mean, you'd voted, but you'd never been.
Yeah.
They're great crack, aren't they?
Great crack, yeah.
One of the things that struck me was your colleagues in LMFM just kind of illustrating my point that they, there's not enough of them to bilocate anymore, so they were able to do that. But you were providing the ultimate in public service there, weren't you?
Yeah, 100%. And I suppose selfishly for me as well, I didn't want to be caught up dealing with media in a very nice way. Like
awful people, terrible, awful creatures.
They tend to look at us as communications officials, thinking we're there solely for their purpose, which quite happy to do. But the video link helped kind of alleviate that, because they were sitting, Me Chronicle, most of them were actually in the building, but they just went to a separate room and didn't have to come into the county.
There was better sandwiches in that room, I guarantee you.
And they were fed and kept watered and all that jazz. But like, it was just, it's just the right way to do it. And Loud then was allowed, like that LMFM side of things, they were able to just give their full attention in the Loud Count Centre and get that real-time information online.
And one of the big challenges always is, the speed sometimes at which returning officers speak. The fact that it was recorded and you could play it back. There is full transparency, which is vitally important. I mean, the only thing you weren't doing was you weren't looking in the pigeonholes. Everything else was done.
Exactly. And another, I think it's good to point out, another big benefit to it was the fact that some candidates didn't want to be there. Maybe they weren't as successful as they were previous, and so they could just stay at home and not have to face kind of what they might have walked into if they were actually already there, not knowing what way they're.
So, I mean, you're hoping, again, we're a good few years away from another local authority election. That's fairly set in stone, thank God. But in terms of general elections and stuff like that, is it something that you might look towards? Given that you have some
it's a different kind of involvement we have as a local authority. So I don't know, but local elections definitely is the way to go. Like, there's no point. Like, it's about working smarter, not harder.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's just a really, really good idea. Now, I'm going to look at my phone to see what questions you have been asking. I wonder which questions you'll be asking. For Kildare, there's evidence some businesses, such as hairdressing, leaving commercial properties in towns and villages and reverting to homes to avoid rate bills. Does your system allow you to identify these businesses? Didn't know that.
So you have, our main role is to identify buildings where there is business operating from and then refer to Talcha. Valuation is the role of Talcha. So when Talcha go out to a building, if someone is operating a business from a property that doesn't need any space additional to what they have as their own home, then very likely they won't rate them. But that's not our role. All we do is refer them.
So in other words, taking down the sign saying Betty's Hairdressers isn't going to necessarily avoid Talcha. For Noac, Lara, this is for you. How many submissions were received as sample projects for today's seminar? Are there many areas of local authority service that stood out as being not represented? I suppose that's a difficult question, but I mean, there's a good cross-section there of the types of thing that local authorities do, and there's more examples available online.
Yeah, no, look, every year we accumulate a volume of samples, and then, you know, we pick a number to go forward. So we'll be quite a considerable amount of submissions made, but like there's innovation across the entire local authority system, and when a local authority feels it's right to share that innovation with another, then they put it forward to the likes of this event. We appreciate it.
For Ailish, was GDPR an issue for capturing and replaying the videos? I'm presuming that you probably had little signs up saying
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Yeah.
In both Irish and English, just signs displayed when people walked in, and there's cameras everywhere. So
Yeah.
it's like
It's not quite the public's realm as if you're walking on the street, but as long as you have some notification.
Yeah, we
that
had
there's
notification
recording.
of that. This was
Live stream. Did you stream the do you stream plenary meetings? So that's an interesting one because
no, we don't.
Yeah.
Like we're actually our next event. We're opening a library in Batestown next week. And we're going to live stream that because obviously we
it's
can't.
in a different location.
Yeah, but we also can't fit everybody that wants to come into the building.
Yes.
So it's another way of overcoming that. But no, not as of yet. But it can be a discussion.
Just out of curiosity, because we have good representation in the room, any local authorities that do stream their council meetings? Anyone? Yeah. Fingal, a couple. So there's a couple that do it, but I'd say the majority don't. Don't worry, David. I've seen the Cork City Council stream, so I've seen what you can do. GeoCollect. How long did it take Talcha Éireann to rate the unrated premises that you found?
They haven't yet.
Yeah. Enough said. How important is it to have a communications team and a manager? I mean, this to me, Ailish, local authorities. When I started out in journalism, the standard response from local authorities was. And that was it. Absolutely no communications whatsoever. They'd send you around different directors of services. You'd never get an answer. And guess what? Our coverage of local authorities was a little bit biased as a result of that. Now, your team and teams like everyone here are doing great work around this.
Oh, look, I'm very fortunate in Meath that we have a chief executive that backs it and we have a senior management group that backs it. So only in January of this year, I have myself as a communications manager, I have a media and communications officer, I have a digital communications officer, I have a communications graduate, and I have 2 clerical officers. But everything comes through the comms unit. We manage all events, we manage our brand, the publication of every document. It's key. I don't know how local authorities are doing it without.
But, I have had a little bit of experience with Maura, who's in the room, and Cork County Council, and just what they do during storms alone.
Yeah.
The amount of information that needs to be put into the public realm. You can't not
You
have
can't
a meeting
ignore it
communications team.
anymore.
Absolutely.
You can't
Public
ignore it.
expectations that you'll do that. Question for all. What were the biggest obstacles you faced and how did you overcome them? What were the biggest obstacles that you would have faced?
As I kind of mentioned in the presentation, when you move a slightly different direction in how you do things, there's always going to be the unknowns. So it's taking that leap of faith. Again, there wasn't any additional cost, but this was additional workload for the staff involved because there was more to it. As I said before, you could put out the program, people attended or they didn't. So there was a lot more. There was a lot more work involved, and I suppose as well, we were worried that you raise an expectation that you can't meet.
Yeah.
That's why I suppose in the first year piloting it a little bit. They're kind of some of the things we're worried
I'd imagine though
about.
that the buy-in from the community is very satisfying. So when you do see something working really, really well, I mean, you said the disco was fun. When you see the community buying into it, that presumably makes it more worthwhile, and you see your colleagues then go, actually, do you know what, let's do more on this.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where you always hope you'll end up. And obviously we did on this occasion. We've learned a lot from it too. I mean, one of the things we noticed was that the engagement over, say, the 12 to 13-year-old was lower. So, you know, that's the thing we're looking at this year, and how can we engage with the slightly older children. You know, so as someone mentioned earlier, it's always about learning and improving, but the engagement is the key piece, and obviously very satisfying.
I've one of them at home. I just choose not to engage. It's easier. Moving on to you, if we can, Catherine. Something that was an obstacle that you overcame, or indeed, if we can, Martin, something.
From a technical perspective, it's quite plain sailing, to be honest.
God, I'd love him as my IT guy. Nothing phases him.
Collaboration was very good between ourselves and rates, and in fairness, there was full commitment from the rates department, I suppose, in the uptake, the new approach and the new technology. Now, Catherine might like to further elaborate from a business perspective.
Yeah, look, from our perspective, the system is so good that there was no effort to having to get the staff to buy in, because it's just brilliant. But I suppose the thing that we love is, you know, you have all of this complex data feeding into the system. As a user of the system, we don't see any of that. All we see is a really user-friendly system that works really well.
Yeah, I suppose, Ailish, for you, the problem was tech, wasn't it? You had to have tech in place that worked.
Yeah, I suppose the biggest thing was just changing the culture, like the fear around it. It was something completely new, it was something different, so it was embracing that. And I remember the first meeting I actually talked about it, and IT were in the room, and this level of fear that came out, it's like, oh my God, what are we going to be needed to do? And it's actually so straightforward, because we already had everything in place.
Yeah.
And then I remember a returning officer, he was going to be now live streamed to God only knows how many people at the time, and his biggest concern was the colour of his suit and the backdrop. And,
Funny things, things catch their attention, yeah. But you know, the only thing about that is, if you knew how shambolic most broadcasting is, you'd realise that you could all do it relatively straight. The amount of times I've been broadcasting using 2 cans and a piece of string is incredible. Look, Lara, I'll give the last word on this to you. The message we want people to take away from today is that just go for it. You know, you see what others are doing, and more importantly, where you have colleagues in your local authorities who are doing this, let's get them here next year to tell their story.
Yeah, I think you really put your hand on it there, Jonathan. I think it's enabling the people to go for the solution and empower them. And, you know, mistakes may be made along the way, but that's not an issue. It's concentrating, I suppose, on the outcome. And I think the local authority sector is good in enabling innovation, to be honest. I think it will continue to do so. If you just think we're here in 2025, and I can tell you in 2023 there wasn't many of us talking about AI. In 2025, everybody started to talk about AI, so you couldn't even imagine where we would be, I'd say, in a decade's time with how fast this is evolving.
And the one, I remember at a conference years ago, it was a tech conference, and I threw some flippant comment before I knew the people at Noac about local authorities and adopting technology. Jesus, I was nearly lynched, because it turns out they're miles ahead of where a lot of the private sector are, because of the ability that exists to make lives better. You know, somebody used the example, and we had them at a previous Noac event, of the passport. You know, the idea that you used to be waiting months and months for your passport. Now you have it the following day. And it's because, like that, somebody wasn't able to do something clever. Ladies and gentlemen, our panel of Lar Power, Catherine Ryan, Martin Donnelly, Emer O'Brien and Ailey Shaw. Thank you very much, guys. We'll leave you retake your seats there. You can leave the microphones on the chairs, guys. We can just thank you kindly. Thank you very much indeed. Right, we are nearly at the point where we feed you, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll be going across to Kilkenny Design, which is just across the road. But before we do that, to close with a few words, will you please welcome, he is the CEO of Longford County Council, but he's the Vice Chair of the CCMA, Mr. Paddy Mahan, ladies and gentlemen. Paddy.
Thanks very much, everybody. On behalf of the City and County Management Association, I'm delighted to be here today to close this very interesting and informative good practice in local government conference, showcasing just some of the great initiatives developed and implemented by local government sector. And I'm delighted to see a lot of my Chief Executive colleagues attended the event here today. Today's event showcases local authorities' commitment to continue to demonstrate your ability, your innovation, your willingness, and I suppose the compulsion to engage with emerging technologies and their adaptation to new ways of working, and to continually improve how we provide and deliver services to our public and our citizens. So this event highlighted examples of the innovation that is innate, as Lara said, and ever present within the local government sector in Ireland. The public service strategy titled Better Public Services is borne out on a daily basis by local government sector. This strategy recognises that the innovation and transformation is about finding new means of delivering and designing services, demonstrated by, I think, by all our speakers this morning, and policy responses in ways that can add value to the people we serve. And today we've seen lots of examples of just that. We've seen some great examples from adopting lean methodologies into local enterprise offices from Donegal, Dublin City Council's adaptive reuse unit. My daughter used to work in that office, and it's fantastic to see it now being developed as an apartment block, and badly needed in that part of Dublin. The tree service project from County Clare, absolutely fascinating and very timely. Cork County Council's My Creative Wish initiative with, I think, was it 450 expressions of interest, quite remarkable. The Geo Collect in Kildare, I think, fascinating, and my head of finance, if he doesn't know about it already, will know about it within the hour. I'm guessing he knows about it. And the live streaming local elections in Meath County Council, why didn't we all think of that? It's absolutely fascinating and fantastic. They're all great examples of how the local government sector is leading the way in solving complex challenges with innovation and transformative solutions. In addition to these examples, there were others. As one of the questions was, are there more? And there were, and some of them are showcased in today's programme, like the South Dublin County Council Bellegarde Cost Rental Project, the Tipperary Council's Local Government Drupal Best Practice Approach to Local Authority Website Development, and the Athlone Urban Design and Regeneration Framework, and Barry is here from Athlone, to represent, or from Westmeath representing that. So as we are the level of government closest to the citizens, the local government sector has developed and implemented innovative and transformative solutions across all functional areas to meet with the new challenges that we face in areas of policy implementation, normal everyday business. And it's just an extension of the innovation that we as a sector embrace and deliver on an ongoing basis, and will continue to do so. With a pleasure to recognise the good practice across the sector demonstrated here today. And now, before we finish, I'd just like to thank Lara Power, Chief Executive here in Kilkenny, and his team, and Anne Tehan and the OPW team here in Kilkenny Castle for hosting the event today in this fantastic setting. I'd like to thank Michael McCarthy, the Chair of Noac, and all the members of Noac for their support and guidance in agreeing the itinerary. These type of events, as you all know, don't just happen. There's lots of planning and work that's put in to deliver an absolutely excellent programme here today. I'd like to thank the Noac staff, Claire Gavin, Alan McDermott, John Goldrick and Val Longmore for your contribution to today's event. I'd also like to thank Pauline Mulligan, the new CEO of the LGMA, and Pauline's staff, especially Eddie, David, Jacinta and Anna, for all their hard work in bringing this event together. I'd also like to thank Jonathan for hosting and moderating the event so well, and for really sort of developing really good Q&A sessions at the end of each of the presentations. I'd like to thank Broderick's for all the technical support that made this event possible, and to all the speakers that are here today, big thank you for taking time from your very busy work to contribute to today's event. You've demonstrated that local authorities have the skills and capacity to respond to the challenges that we face on an in an ever-developing environment that we operate in. To everybody else in the audience, thanks for listening. Hopefully we've all learned something new here today. It's a good practice event, and one of its aims is to support knowledge sharing, so perhaps we'll all bring something home to share with our colleagues back at the office, and we can replicate some of the excellence that was demonstrated here today. And looking forward to seeing everybody here again in 2026. Good
morning, Paddy. Good morning. Thank you very much and well said. I'm just going to finish up by saying, Paddy, I know your county was particularly difficult with Storm Éowyn, and half of the local authorities here had a very difficult time with Storm Éowyn. But if you listen to the media and the narrative and issues that ESB Networks most certainly had, and Ishka and Jesus, they certainly had them, no one complained about the local authority. Nobody complained about the work that was committed on the ground by the crews that went out as soon as they could to help their community, because they are of that community. And what stands out to me is that local authorities are about people. And the solution for Storm Éowyn was people going out and doing what they had to do to clear the roads, to make trees safe, to make sure that people actually in their homes were getting what they needed, right down to that level of community care. And what struck me today was the solution to many of the problems that face the communities and the local authorities they will be solved not by the local authorities, not by policies, not by whatever, but by people. And it's, as I said, empowering people within your organisations to make that change and to spread it around. And so all the good ideas here, apart from the rates one, which I'm guaranteeing you is going to be everywhere by the end of the day, the other ideas, let them be spread too, because everybody here is here to serve the public and to make sure that the communities we all live in are the best that they can be. So thank you again for inviting me to be part here today. Kilkenny Design across the road, David, is where we're heading next. So out the door, down and out through the main door. Hopefully we will have more brilliant ideas next year to share. Gurra Mila Mahag of Galer, August Slán. Thank you so much.